and Nolbu, a Korean story. Once there were two brothers, Nolbu and Heungbu, who lived together with their families in their father's house. Nolbu, the eldest, was selfish and cruel, but his brother Heungbu was always kind. When their father died, Nolbu threw Heungbu out of the house and kept all of their father's fortune for himself. Heungbu had to live in a tumble-down hovel and work hard to feed his family, but he never complained. One autumn the harvest was bad, and Heungbu's family had nothing to eat, so he went to his brother's house to beg for some food for his children. Nolbu's wife, who was just as cruel as her husband, was cooking in the kitchen. When she saw Heungbu, she refused to give him anything and struck him on the face with her rice ladle. But Heungbu did not complain. Carefully, he scraped the sticky rice from his cheek and asked her to strike him again. Thinking him stupid, she did as he asked. Then Heungbu gathered the rice from the other cheek and took it home to feed his family, his children. The next day, Heungbu found a young swallow that had fallen from its nest. Gently, he bandaged its broken leg. Then he cared for it until it was strong enough to return to the nest. That winter, the swallow flew away, but it did not forget Heungbu's kindness. When it returned in the spring, the swallow dropped some seeds into his hand. Heungbu had no garden, but he planted them on his thatched roof. Before long, vines began to grow on the roof. They produced bright flowers and then 3 plump gourds. When the gourds were ripe, Heungbu borrowed a ladder and picked them. "These will feed us all for weeks," he said, and he cut one open. To the family's amazement, the gourd was full of rice, which flowed and flowed until it had filled a dozen sacks. "Open another," his wife said. Out of the second gourd tumbled enough gold coins to fill a cart. "Open another," cried the children. Out of the third gourd, Heungbu pulled enough timber and nails to build a fine house. Laughing with happiness, Heungbu and his family set to work to build themselves a house, and when it was built, they shared their good fortune with their neighbors. The story of Heungbu's good luck soon reached his brother's ears. Nolbu went at once to see how such a thing could have happened. He listened in amazement as Heungbu told him about the swallow and the gourd seeds. Immediately, Nolbu was jealous of his brother's good fortune. He returned home and searched for a swallow's nest. When he found one, he snatched up a young bird and broke its leg. Then he bandaged it roughly and flung it back in the nest. As before, the swallows flew south for the winter. When it returned in the spring, the swallow dropped some seeds into Nolbu's hand, and he planted them in his garden. Nolbu and his wife waited impatiently for their gourds to grow. As soon as they were ripe, Nolbu fetched his saw to cut them open. "Now we'll be even richer," they cried greedily. But to their horror, out of the gourds leaped a dozen wicked goblins, shrieking wildly. The goblins stole Nolbu's money and tore down his house. Nolbu and his wife were left with nothing. In tears, they went to Heungbu and humbly asked for help. Heungbu welcomed them. "My house is your house, brother," he said. And so Nolbu and his wife learned kindness, and they all lived happily ever after.